Good morning, guys. I'm going on a little hike this morning here on the big farm. Got 170 rolls here on this side of the farm, and I'm getting ready to mow the back side of the farm, which is about 40 more acres. That's what I'm going to work on today. So I wanted my truck out here where it's a little more flat, and I'm walking to get my tractor and mower at the moment. And the guys buying the hay, they hadn't got all of it out of here, but they've got most of it out of here. And they've got this end with the house on it cleaned up, got all the bales off of it, which is good because the guy that owns this place doesn't like to look at round bales forever. So I'm glad that they kind of worked around the house and worked their way back, and the only bales that are left are out here out of sight. So you can see them there in the distance. There's a few of them that left, but they've about got them all picked up, which is great. So I'm gonna get this John Deere going, stick a little fuel in it. We got a torrential downpour last night. Everything's soaking wet, but that is good because now it's going to dry up and get really dry. So I'm glad that we did get that rain before it turns off dry. It's supposed to be dry for about a week, which is really hard on things, you know. And it's been being dry for the last week or so. So it was good to get that heavy rain last night, and it all soaked in. There's hardly any puddles anywhere. There's dirt, and there's puddles on the asphalt, but not so much out here on the dirt. But we'll talk to y'all in a little bit. We'll get started mowing, and hopefully everything goes good. All right, I'm going to go out there and put a camera on the mower somewhere so y'all have another view. But I wanted y'all to see this because I wanted you to realize that I have to stop and do this so you can get a different view. I mean, it takes time and effort, which is fine. I enjoy filming and making videos for y'all, but it is a time-consuming thing. Now, probably wondering, why am I clapping? It's so I can sync my sound. We'll make sure here I didn't turn this on. Oh yeah. I don't know why I turned it on before I got out here. I don't normally do that. All right, clap. Now I can sync my sound with that. And I do the sound syncing because I have a separate mic. So the mic is recording separately from the camera, but I use the sound from the mic most of the time. Sometimes I use the sound from a camera to get equipment noises. But I use the editing software, and I'll sync the sound with the mic with the camera or the picture. So if you ever see the sound get out of sync, it's my fault because I didn't get it right. But I try to get it right so everything works right, looks right. It just takes a lot of time. So I'm mowing. This is fescue and orchard grass. And what is the day? What is today? What's the date? Today is June the 16th. No, June the 17th. I hate it when it does that. It didn't update. It's June the 17th, Friday. And hay is already starting to get a little bit ripe. It's still got a lot of green down below, down in the bottom. And in our region, this is about the time it'll start getting ripe, about midway through June. So we can't start mowing hay here. It doesn't start getting ready till right at the end of May, about, what is that? It's a stick. This is a small stick. About May 30th or May 28th, something in there. Hay is starting to just starting to head, like orchard grass, just starting to head. Well, that's when I start. But you can't do 200 acres, obviously. And sometimes I start a little earlier than that just to get a jump on it, if the weather will allow it. But, you know, obviously you can't get up 200 acres because of the weather all at one time. So, here we are, halfway through June, still getting up hay. I'm past the halfway point. As a matter of fact, I may be able to get it all done in the next this weather stretch. I got this. I can't remember if this field is 30 acres or 40 acres. This portion of the field. And then I got a field across the road that's 25 acres. I got to cut it. And then I've got a couple of more fields, actually 3 more fields. One's only 4 acres, and then I got a 14 acre and an 8 acre I got to finish. And I want to get those done as quickly as possible because I don't want this hay to go any further than it has to as far as getting ripe. But it's just part of it. You can't do it all at once. And you know, it's just, unless you got a lot more help than I got, more mowers, more tractors, more balers, and more people. I kind of have to, you know, I don't have enough people. Even if I did have the equipment, I don't have enough people to operate it. I just don't. So I don't know what I'm doing. This is not what I wanted to do. I got to talking, but we'll go ahead and go this way. I was doing a back and forth, you know, a left and a right, off the right of the machine, then turn around and go back to the left of the machine. That's what I was doing, and I just took off around the field again. So I got to talking and I wasn't thinking about what I was doing, which is all right. I do that sometimes, but I mean, as long as I got this mower mowing hay, it's all got to be mowed, right? It's all got to go. I just got to deal with a whole lot more turns and stuff when I go around the field. So that's why I like to get one end of the field kind of squared up a little bit, get it kind of straight-ish, cut any oblong, strange shapes off the side of it. Geez, that's a little rough right there. You know, I cut it off the side of the field, and then I just start whittling on it back and forth, and you can really knock a lot of hay down when you just go straight back and forth. It just don't seem like no time you got a bunch of hay on the ground, especially with this 13-foot cut mower. And been super pleased with this mower since I bought it. I may have said in another video, but you know, about the only complaint I have with it is in light crop, it don't cut very well, which most mowers like this don't. They're just not designed to cut light crop. There is a pulley or a setting or something. I'm pretty sure you have to change a pulley that will slow the rollers down, and it will help. I don't think it would prevent it, but I think it helps with blowdown from the rollers, which is the reason why it doesn't cut light crop well. The rollers are just spinning so fast, which helps in heavy crop. You want them rollers to get that crop out of the way so they can cut it, especially like in that rye mode. You want them rollers running super fast, get that get that crop out of the way so more crop can come in, obviously. So in light crop, you don't need those rollers running so fast because, you know, the opposite is true. There's not as much crop coming in, so it doesn't have to get out of the way as fast. And it doesn't blow. They don't create as much wind when they slow down, and it doesn't blow the light crop down, which allows it to cut better. You can also put like a high lift blades on it and stuff like that. I think it has like a medium lift blade on it right now, but probably need a high lift blade. I'm thinking maybe to cut lighter material, and I could be wrong on that. It says in the book which blades you should use for what, but I'm still running stock blades and running the stock roller speed, and I've been doing fine with it because most of my hay is heavier. Sometimes I get into light stuff. This isn't the heaviest field I've cut by far, but the next field I'm going to is going to be quite a bit heavier than this one, and I plan on square baling it. It's got a lot more green in it too. It's not as ripe as this field. It also had nitrogen put on it in the spring, where this one did not. This one had a good fall fertilizing, but the field across the road had a fall fertilization and a spring nitrogen shot or urea shot. So it's good and thick. And the fertilizer will make it not turn ripe as fast. Also, if you don't fertilize, it seems to ripen a lot quicker, which doesn't make a lot of sense, because you think growing faster with fertilizer would cause it to get ripe faster, but somehow it doesn't. It keeps its color better if it's fertilized well, whereas if it's not fertilized, it won't keep that green color as long. At least in my experience, it won't. What I've seen. But yeah, I really enjoy mowing with this mower. Somebody suggested I get a center pivot a long time ago on my channel. I'm like, nah, I don't know that I can afford one, and I don't know that it'll be worth it. But it is worth it. And yeah, it's worth it. And the only thing about being 13 foot, which I love out here in these big fields, and I don't like a 13 foot even in a small field, but you can just go into a small field and you just wipe it out in no time. Because I can mow about, in a field like this, once I get straightened out and get out of all these curves, I can mow about 9 acres an hour, which is pretty good. But the only thing about the 13 foot, especially around here where I live, is getting it up and down the road. It's kind of dangerous. You have to be really, really careful. Really, really careful. And it's even better if you can get somebody to go along in front of you and tell you on the radio if anything's coming, and try to warn the drivers that's coming at me that there's something wide coming, because this thing it's not easy to move up and down the road. But I wouldn't go back to the smaller 10-foot machine just because of the road traveling. I just wouldn't do it. Even though it is more aggravating, I would not do that. And yeah, I just like this machine all around better. The 10-foot machine that mowed 10 foot 4 inches wide that I had, the 7230, it was actually like 11 and a half foot wide. So there's not a lot of difference in width, because it had a lot of guards and gearboxes and stuff on the outside of the cutter head that made it a lot wider than that cut actually was. And I never understood why they did that, and why they didn't try to do something different and make it make the machine the same width as the cut. I know they can do it because this one is the same width as what it cuts. Actually, it might be 4 inches wider than what it cuts. But that's not, I mean, that's just guards and stuff where they're, you know, that's minimal. 4 inches is not a big deal. Now, 1.5 feet, or maybe even 2 foot wider than what it cuts, that's a little much, I think. But, you know, whatever, it worked. It just made it more difficult to move around than it had to be, and made it more difficult to get through gates than it needed to be. See if I can remember to just turn around and go back this time. Ooh. Just across the road right there. There's a road that goes all the way down through here, but it's all growed up in hay. This hay right in here looks pretty dang good. It's got a lot of orchard grass right and Timothy in it right through here. Big old tree I'm going to mow around. Go ahead and go around stuff sometimes when I come to it, if I remember. Sometimes I don't. I don't like coming up on stuff like that when the mower is on the left side of the tractor. I use the mirror on that when I'm working on that off of that side, and it's just not natural for me to look over my left shoulder. All the controls are on the right side, and you can't really reach them when you're looking over your left shoulder and driving with your right hand. It just don't work very good. So I do not like coming up on obstacles with the mower on the left side of the tractor. Just it's really difficult and awkward, and I'm afraid I'm going to hit something with the mower. So I have to really pay attention to what I'm doing. I think I'm going to stay down here on this lower end and go back and forth a couple times until I get it caught up with the upper end and get them kind of squared up and straightened up with each other, and then I'll start running back and forth the whole length of the field, which is pretty fun to do. So let's swap sides with the mower here. Now the mower's on the other side. I've gotten a lot better at mowing off the left side. Man, when I first started, it was I'll say I left a lot of streaks here and there. But I've gotten a lot better. I'm not the best at running it as tight, like running the edge of the mower as tight to it as I can from the right side, but I'm getting better and better the more I do it. And it's a whole lot easier on my neck where I use the mirror. I try using the mirror on the right side, but for some reason, my brain won't let me do it. It wants to look over my shoulder. I guess it's where I've done it so long. I've got the mirror adjusted where I can use it. I mean, I'm forcing myself to do it right now, but just because I'm talking about it, but 90% of the time, I just catch myself looking over that right shoulder and wearing my neck out for no reason. I can look right here in the mirror and I can see what's going on, see the edge of my mower just fine. It's just a mental block.
I did get my fenders for my Massey Ferguson 5711, so I've been servicing it. I had to change the oil in it at 50 hours. It's actually got 59 hours, but changed the oil and the hydraulic filters that it recommended changing at 50 hours. It recommends changing the fuel filters at 50 hours. I'm like, man, our fuel is typically really clean, or we don't have a lot of fuel filter issues. I just don't see putting fuel filters on it at 50 hours, because it's not like it's any type of break-in in the fuel tank. What's the point in putting fuel filters on it at 50 hours? I'm going to run them on at least to 100 hours. I mean, there's the regular interval is 500 hours. So I don't see an issue with them running at least to 100 hours, if not longer. So. I do have them in case they stop up. I've got fuel filters on hand. So I just don't think I'm going to have trouble with them. But I got the fenders, I was saying, I got the front fender brackets finally. I've had the fenders a while, but I didn't have the brackets to mount them to the axle. And they're spring loaded. Axle mounts were when you turn the wheels, when you turn the wheels, like the left tire, when you turn the wheel to the left, the fender stays put so it don't hit the hood. And the right tire, if you turn to the right, the fender stays put so it don't hit the hood. But then when otherwise it still follows the tire. So I've got that, and I started putting them on yesterday. I just hadn't finished it. Kind of excited about that. I still don't have a third function valve though, which is kind of a bummer, because I really would like to be able to use that tractor to run my tie grabber or a grapple, or anything that requires a third function on it. The grass has dried up a lot. It rained a lot last night, but it's hardly any moisture getting on the mower now. Tires are still a little damp, but I'd say by the end of the day it'll be dry as a potato chip again. They're saying there could be some severe thunderstorms this evening, but I'm not too concerned about that. So it'll be fine either way. I gotta remember there's a well casing over there. Man, that would be a disaster to hit that. There's a couple of fence posts sticking up at it to help me see it, but that would suck if I hit that thing. It's not a plastic well casing either, it's a metal well casing. Be interesting to see what this field turns out this year. Last year it did 103 round bales and 300 square bales. Well, I'm not going to do any square bales down here this year. I'm just going to roll it. I'm going to do, last year I didn't do any square bales in the other field. That's actually a lot better quality hay that I'm going to mow today. This year I'm going to do the square bales in that field, which makes a lot more sense. And then round bale all of this field, which this is good hay, but this has more fescue in it and less orchard grass, and I want to get the one that has more orchard grass and less fescue in the square bales. Make sure I got by that power pole okay. I've got everything that's kind of squared up like I want it now. And now I'm going to start running all the way the length of this field. This is a long field, kind of narrow and long. With wide ends. Each end gets wide. So it cuts off in the middle early, and then you got to start working on each triangle on each end. But while I can go the whole length of the field, it's a lot of fun. Just going back and forth on one side of it. A whole lot better than going around and around and around. All right, I'm gonna give y'all a break for a little while. May check back with you when I get to the other field. Give you a status update, something to that effect. Talk to y'all. All right, I'm over here mowing at the Christmas tree farm, and I was just looking at this hay here. This hay right here is mostly orchard grass with some fescue, and these leaves right here are what you want. That's where your nutrition is. This is some beautiful stuff. It ain't the tallest orchard grass I've ever seen. I mean, it's up to my shirt pocket, but very beautiful, still green. This it's not as ripe as I had thought it was, and that's good. John Deere and the mower still kicking butt, getting it done. But anyway, this field's about 25 acres, and I'm just now getting it opened up. I've got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds around it. But we're getting there. It's looking good. So this is a little small piece of this field. This kind of over here by itself. It's cut off by a little narrow passageway on the side of a steep slope below the road, and I've got all that steep slope mowed. Just mowing around the field, you kind of mow this part off, so I was going to go ahead and mow this area right here and get it over with, and then I'll go back over onto the big part. But this right here is some beautiful top quality orchard grass hay. It's not ripe, but maybe a little over mature, but like I said before, there's no way you can do as much hay as I'm doing and get it all up before, June. So it's just not possible. Or the first week of June, which is when we start, because that's when hay starts to get ready. But just not something you can do. Then you'll work a 2 or 3 day, or you'll work 3 days, 4 days maybe. With the weather, you get up as much as you can, then you got to wait 2 weeks on it to rain and spit and sputter and thunderstorms and all that stuff before you can get back in the hayfield. It's kind of frustrating here on the East Coast, but East Coast is in Virginia. Southwestern Virginia, that's where I'm at. Humidity is just extremely bad here, and it's been about as humid as I've ever seen it the last couple of days. I mean, even in the daytime running an air conditioner, if it's blowing on a window at all, it would fog up so bad you couldn't even see out of it. Usually that you don't have that problem until the sun goes down, but here lately, even with the sun up, the humidity has just been something awful. Yep, the good Lord has blessed me with this beautiful hay, and I'm sure He will bless me with the weather to get it all up in good shape. That's my prayer anyway. I'm doing a lot more first cutting square bales this year when I'm attempting to. It just seems like last year people couldn't get enough hay, and this year seems like it may even be worse as far as square baling goes. Square bales, I've just had lots and lots of orders for square bales. Doesn't matter as long as it's square. I mean, as far as first cutting, second cutting, yeah, most people prefer to have second cutting hay for their horses and stuff, but when you make good quality hay like this, first cutting, heck, sometimes first cutting may end up being better as far as nutritional value than second cutting. It's a lot harder to tell when your second cut has got too ripe, and sometimes, you know, it can be too ripe and you can't really tell it by the color, and it can be even lower in value than the first cutting, but you know, it happens. But there's not so many stems in second cutting, and it tends to be softer to the touch, which makes people that buy it happy. I'm not sure that the animals really care so much. Maybe certain animals, older animals or something, maybe the stems are more of a concern in first cutting, but most animals just chow right on down on this stuff, no problem. It just don't take long to wipe out a small field like this with a mower. Which, you know, this is a small field, but it's part of a bigger field, so don't get confused by that statement. Hopefully I'm knocking off a lot of seeds, which will go back onto the ground. The seeds don't really have anything to do with the nutritional value. Seeds, seed heads, none of that. It's the leaves that I was showing you down at the bottom of the plant where it's real leafy. There's your value. So if I knock the seeds off the plants, it's good to help reseed the field. It knocks the seeds off, and then the tractor tires run over the seeds and kind of mash them in the ground a little bit and get a little bit better seed contact, and hopefully some of them will grow. And make even more orchard grass, which some of the fescue will grow, will replant and grow also, but that's fine. I didn't plant fescue here when I drilled this. I did drill all this, because I have videos on redoing all this field when it was after we got all the pine trees out of here. And then I did drill it, but you're always going to end up with fescue in a field like this. Birds drop it in, wind blows it in, it'll fall off your mower from previous fields unless you go and clean your mower off. But still, it doesn't matter. Around the edges there'll be fescue and it'll blow in here. And fescue's not terrible. It's not terrible.